should sign as a last-minute transfer. So of course, the transfer window is coming up to its final days. Deadline day is fast approaching, and usually now we get into this, last 7 days of a window, teams start to panic, players start to become available for much cheaper prices, players who maybe weren't available at the start of a window but maybe now are available, suddenly crop up, and a lot of sort of bargains, good deals and stuff are out there really during this time of a window. So I thought, why not I go through every Premier League club and suggest one player they should sign as a sort of last minute deadline day move. So the players I mentioned in this video, as I said, are going to be players who I think are potentially going to be available for a cheaper price and a good deal, who can strengthen each team's squad, and I think is something they should do in these closing stages of the window. We have of course done a one player every club should sign already, so anyone I mentioned in that video I'm not really going to talk about in this video. And yet, as always with these, especially now we're in the closing stages, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because it is as of recording. By the time you see this, there is probably one or two of these players who maybe would have moved to other clubs, but I think most of these are not really linked to anywhere right now, majorly, so should be good. And also at the end of the video I'm going to give some other players who sort of need to get moves, who I sort of considered to give to clubs but couldn't really assign them to a club. So yeah, hope you guys do enjoy. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these suggestions and who you would like your club to sign in the closing stages of the window, if anybody. I have got a suggestion for everyone though. And yeah, let's begin. We're going to go in a random order today. So we begin with Spurs. Now Spurs for me need another midfielder. Ideally a 6, but just in general, somebody who can play in that 6 role, or just a number 8. Now many clubs do need a 6, and as the deadline approaches it's quite hard to get a good one who is available. I was looking around, there isn't really any I can really see, so I'm going to suggest a player who, could play in that role but is more of an 8th. That player is Leon Goretzka. He's very much available, as Bayern do not want him anymore, so he's going to be cheap. I think they would probably be willing to let him go on a loan with an option to buy as well. Even though Bayern do not want him, he is still a good player. He has an abundance of experience at the highest level. He's a Champions League winner, Bundesliga winner, and at his best, he can be one of the best midfielders in the league. And I think Spurs could do with a player like that to add a bit more depth into the midfield, having lost the likes of Højbjerg and Skip. As I said, it's maybe not the ideal fit, as they would have preferred a more natural DM, but he would still be a very useful player for them, and if they can get the best out of him on a cheap deal, I think it would be worth a punt, adding a bit of experience to that side, because they've been signing quite a few youngsters this window. It wouldn't be the worst move in the world to go and get someone who's a bit more experienced and available. So Leon Goretzka to Spurs is my suggestion. Southampton. Southampton don't really need too many players, just bits of quality which they can snap up late in the window, which could be the difference in keeping them up, is really the objective here. One move which could be just perfect for this is one Southampton fans I know would absolutely love to happen. James Ward-Prowse making his return to St Mary's. The former club captain and 7 goals and as many assists is not a bad return for a midfielder, but with Lopetegui in, West Ham have signed a load of midfielders, meaning he will likely be let go of. Still in his prime, Ward-Prowse has a lot to offer to a Premier League club, and a return home would be fantastic, as he will add experience and quality to that rather young Southampton side. They could probably get him on a loan with an option to buy, but maybe a mandatory if they stay up, something like that. So I think it would be a low risk and just add such a buzz back to St Mary's, which is definitely needed. And if they can get this done, oh wow, it would be sensational to see Ward-Prowse back at Southampton. Next up is Brighton. Brighton have done some amazing things this window, bringing in some really talented players, and probably don't need any more players. One theme I've noticed from their window is they've signed players from a bit of a higher level than before. Previously, Brighton would buy players straight out of South America or a lower league in Europe and then develop them internally. This window they started signing players who are a bit more established in Europe. You know, the example of FIFA and Minto have had great years in Eredivisie for Feyenoord, same for Rutte in the Championship with Leeds. So I followed the same theme, and this is a position they probably don't need, but more so as an opportunity, like with Rutte, to sign a young, talented player for a decent fee who is already established in Europe. That player is Carney Chukwuemeka. Another one of the Chelsea outcasts. I actually do feel really sorry for Carney because last season he started it off so good, but picked up an injury which ruled him out for most of the season, so we didn't really get the chance to see the best of his abilities. Since then as well, we've signed a bunch of players, meaning he's not going to get a chance playing in the first team this season. He's still a really good player though, with experience in the Premier League and just 20 years old. As I said, Brighton probably don't need him, but it's an opportunity available to sign a player for probably only around 20 million-ish, who has a lot of potential and fantastic ability. I could honestly see if this happens, Carney being sold on for some big money in the future, so Carney Chukwuemeka to Brighton is the suggestion. Liverpool. Okay, so with Liverpool, everyone knows they need a DM, they need a 6. However, I just don't think it's realistic to suggest one because it's just, at this point in the window, it's just going to be another sort of Endo situation where they get a cheap guy, and I think, you know, what's the point in that case? Another area of need though is centre-back. Joe Gomez looks like he might be leaving, Sepp van der Berg is gone, Joel Matip is also gone, meaning we only have 3 centre-backs available at the club, Van Dijk, Konate and Kwanzaa. If any of those get an injury, you are a bit concerned, so another centre-back is priority. Now I'm looking for somebody who is not going to demand to play, doesn't cost too much, and can fill in when necessary. I think I have a perfect fit for that. It's a little bit out there, and I'll say this, I can guarantee this won't happen, but I think this person ticks all the boxes, and that is Trevor Chalobah to Liverpool. Now look, Chalobah is available for a very cheap fee. I reckon around 15 million would probably be enough to get him out of Chelsea. He wants to leave the club, so he's available straight away. Not going to cost too much. Has plenty of Premier League experience. Has proven he can perform for a top club like Chelsea. So there really shouldn't be any sort of adaptation period necessary either. He's got Champions League experience. He's also somebody who, as we've seen at Chelsea, is more than content of not starting every single game. When required to play, after a few weeks out, will put in some really good performances. He's a top professional, and as I said, isn't going to cost too much. He can play in a back 2, a back 3 system. I just think it's a really smart addition as a depth option. As I said, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it makes perfect sense. Just as a 4th choice centre back, Trevor Chalobah to Liverpool, that is my suggestion. Brentford. recently, but still need a couple players. A left back is still needed, and if Tony goes, maybe another striker. However, I've kind of just gone for a sentimental pick here and ignored that. The player I'm going for is Christian Eriksen. United picked up Eriksen on a free from Brentford in the summer 2022, and he was a key player for them during the 22-23 season, but his game time has since dwindled and he has tumbled down the pecking order. United have said he can leave, and with 1 year left on his deal will be available for a very, very small fee. Now, this just makes a lot of sense for Brentford, because of course when he returned to football in 2022 with Brentford, he was one of their best players, dragging them away from a relegation fight into mid-table. The reason Brentford didn't keep him was because he went to United, but now I think he would be more than willing to return to Brentford, and will probably have lower wage demands, and of course, as I said, will cost a very, very small fee. He knows the club, the players, the system, the manager, and even though he's older, he still has abundance of quality which he can offer to this Brentford team. It's a little bit of a sentimental one, sure, but a 1 or 2 year deal for a couple £1,000,000, you can't really go wrong for a player you know can produce magic in your team. Wolves. Now Wolves still need quite a bit of work to their squad, as they do desperately need a left centre back to replace Gilman, but more importantly I feel they need another winger. Pedro Neto is gone and is yet to be replaced, and they have a decent amount of money to spend, so somebody who my Wolves subscriber suggested, Matthew, which I think is a cracking suggestion, is Wilfred Gnonto. Gnonto has been one of the only Leeds players to actually stay from last season, with Somerville, Gray, Rutter all leaving, but if anything, that shows that for the right price, Leeds will sell players, meaning Gnonto is available. Gnonto was just as good as those boys last season, grabbing 11 goal contributions, and also did pretty well in the Premier League with 6 goal contributions for Leeds. He's still only 20 years old, but still has tons of experience, and is already an Italian international. Many Premier League clubs have come in for him in the past, and he's wanted to move but has stayed put for now. However, I think you put in a 20 million bid, and Leeds probably take it, to be honest. As I said, it seems like everybody at Leeds has a price, so Wolves have the money from the Neto sale. They should slap the money on the table, finally spend some money, and get this deal done. Manchester City. Manchester City is difficult as they don't really need anybody. However, I guess you can say they, at least as a recording, are yet to sign an Julian Alvarez replacement. Somebody who can play up front or across the front line. In a different mould to Haaland would be ideal, but a player who also wouldn't cost too much or demand to start. For that reason, I am suggesting Jonathan David. Jonathan David is available for only around 25 million, as he's only got 1 year left on his contract. Lille, this is their last time to cash in on him, and they're going to be more than willing to sell him. So he could be an incredibly shrewd bit of business for City. He's been at Lille for a while and done very, very well in Ligue 1, but for some reason he's always been linked with a big move, but yet never made the jump. He's a very different style to Haaland, much more technical striker who'll get involved in that link-up play, so I think would be good alternative to Haaland if they wanted to sign another striker for a pretty reasonable price. They probably won't sign anybody, but I think it'll be a nice addition if they did want another attacker. Chelsea. Right, Chelsea, honestly, I don't think we should sign anybody. We should get a transfer ban because we've signed enough players. However, if there is one position and one player where I would make an exemption to that is striker, and for one player only, Victor Osimhen. Now look, we've signed players all over the pitch, but one area we have not is striker, and that is one position where if we do sign a world-class striker like Osimhen, I would be on board with it. People have been talking about this one for a long time, but look, he's available right now. No club has gone in for him. He's rejected Saudi Arabia, and I know he doesn't want to leave on loan, but as we approach the deadline, I'm sure he's going to become more open to it because no other club is going to come in for him. He wants to get out there, so if we can get a loan with an option to buy, I mean, that is the dream. Ideally, you probably want it as realistically it's going to be like a mandatory, or maybe a mandatory if he scores a certain amount of goals, plays a certain amount of games. Either way, I'm on board with it. This is the only signing I would say, okay, get this done. Anything else, I really don't want to hear it because Victor Osimhen is a world-class striker, and we don't really have anyone in our squad who is, on that world-class level. So I'm all for this. If you can't get it done though, please do not sign anybody. I want a quiet deadline day, Chelsea, please. I pray we don't sign anybody besides Victor Osimhen on deadline day. West Ham. West Ham have been super busy this window, so kind of like Chelsea, you can argue they don't really need any more signings. However, the only area of the pitch they haven't signed a player is left back. And there's actually some really good ones available, which in the last few days West Ham could snap up on the cheap. Emerson is of course a capable left back, is pretty good, but he can easily upgrade on him. And I'm actually going to give two names here they could go in for. The first is Kieran Tierney, who is back at Arsenal after a rather disappointing loan at Real Sociedad. The thing with Tierney is he's a good left back, just his fitness has always been a problem. However, I think you could probably get him on a loan with an option to buy, or if you want to buy him only around 10 to 15 million, which is actually a decent price to take a punt on a player like him, because if you can get him fit, he is, as I said, a really solid left back and good player. The other option is a bit more of a big name, and that's Ben Chilwell. Chilwell finds himself firmly out of favour under Maresca. He's been asked to train away from the main group. That being said, the reason for that is not because he's a bad player, it's just because he doesn't suit Maresca's inverted fullback system. At West Ham, with Wan-Bissaka on the other side, a more defensive fullback, I could see Chilwell having more licence to bomb forward as an attacking fullback, something he's very good at and thriving. Now, Chilwell is among Chelsea's highest earners, which could prove a problem for his move, but I would imagine he would take a big pay cut to join West Ham, or move on a loan where West Ham maybe pay a loan fee and half his wages, something like that. This move would be quite bold, and it would probably have to sell quite a few players to free up their wage bill for it, but it would be fantastic. So Chilwell or Kieran Tierney to West Ham, either one is a very, very good signing. Fulham have made some really nice signings this summer and don't need too much work, but one area they could do with another body is out wide. Willian and Bobby Alderweireld are gone, and while Smith Rowe has joined, he will probably play that number 10 role, meaning the wingers are only Harry Wilson, Adama and Alex Iwobi. Now, they're fine, but they can be very, very inconsistent players, so another winger could be useful. Now, Fulham have made a habit out of reviving careers in the last couple of seasons, with Leno, Willian, Andres Pereira, Alex Iwobi, even Raul Jimenez enjoying mini renaissance at Fulham. So I think Marco Silva should try work his magic one more time and go and sign Wilfried Zaha. Zaha was able to finally play the Champions League last season by joining Galatasaray last summer, but overall it's not been the best move for the Ivorian. He made just 13 league starts last season, and the Turkish giants are willing to let him return to the Prem. We all know of his quality, and it's not as if he's completely washed or old. He's still 31, which is a decent age, and he wants to come back to the Prem. Now his wages have seemed to be a bit of a stumbling block, but as I said, as we approach the deadline, and less and less clubs come in for him, and he realises he needs to drop his demands in order to get a move, I expect he will drop his wage demands to a more which I really do hope happens, because I really loved watching Zaha play. So even if it's not a Fulham, I would love to see Zaha back in the Prem. Newcastle. Okay, so Newcastle is next, and it seems, as of recording, Newcastle will sign a centre-back. They haven't yet, but I'm assuming they will because they've been heavily linked to one. So one other area of need is a right winger. Miguel Almiron is still the right winger, and quite frankly, he is not good enough. They've got Barnes there as well, but again, he's a bit inconsistent as well. So I think they need another right winger, and I have two names for them. I couldn't really decide on which one was best, so let me know which one you think. But the first one is a bit of a low risk one, as you can go to Chelsea and go and get Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling, as we know, wants out at Chelsea. Chelsea want to offload him. Now the thing with Sterling is, I think you probably get him on a loan with an option to buy, which is a pretty good deal if you're Newcastle, because even though Sterling has his flaws, I'll be the first one to tell you that as a Chelsea fan, he's not completely useless. Last season he actually put up some decent numbers. Again, was very, very inconsistent and frustrating at points, but overall will still give you some really good elements and great ability. He's also extremely, extremely experienced, and somebody who, if you can get the best out, Newcastle have a fantastic player on their hands. As I said, it'll be pretty low risk because you could probably get him on a loan with an option to buy, or if you wanted to buy him, then probably it'll only cost around like 15 million, assuming his wages are a bit of a problem, but I'm assuming he'll probably take a big cut to join Newcastle. And I think for a player of his quality and experience, it's a pretty good move. The other player is kind of similar, and that's Jadon Sancho. Again, we all know Man United want to get rid of Sancho. He doesn't want to stay, and really the real sticking point in terms of why he hasn't moved it, because United have been holding out for a big fee. They want a loan, a mandatory buy option. No club wants to do that. As the deadline ticks away, his price is going to go down and down. So this deal could be very, very attainable. Sancho is still a really good player. We saw last season that he is more than capable of performing at this level. I think you could probably get him on a similar deal to Sterling. Get him on a loan with an option to buy. You wait long enough, United will probably accept that. Newcastle will get a potentially incredible winger if you can get the best out of him. Maybe it's a little bit more of a risk than Sterling because we've not really seen Sancho perform in the Prem ever. So yeah, it's a bit of a risk, but it also has massive, massive upside. So those are the two options, Sterling or Sancho. Take your pick, Newcastle. Ipswich have signed quite a few players, so I guess don't really need anybody. However, with clubs like this, I think it's really about opportunity. This late in the window, players from big clubs will be available on the cheap or on a loan, and they will come to a club like Ipswich, as their options of leaving get pretty thin. So I'm looking for a player who could be that X factor for them on a loan, who might become available at the last second, and that's Gio Reyna. He was once an American wonder kid, but has now fallen out of favour at Dortmund. Last season he went to Nottingham Forest on loan, but really didn't get much game time and is back at Dortmund. He's been involved in their squad, but barely, and isn't really going to get much game time. And I'm sure they'll be more than willing to let him go out on another loan. He wasn't actually that bad at Forest. It was just he didn't get much game time. And I think maybe right now he might scoff at a chance to go Ipswich. But as the deadline approaches and he realises this is a great chance for him to play first team football, I think he would probably take it. He has the ability to be that star and be that real spark for Ipswich in the attack. And on a loan, you can't really go wrong, to be honest. So yeah, Gio Reyna to Ipswich. If I had said that a few years ago, would be pretty crazy, but now seems like pretty smart business for both the club and the player. Dusan Nedeljkovic, who looks promising, but you probably don't want to be chucking straight in. And then you also have Konzerveg and Fulham, but again, you would probably rather have him as centre-back than right-back. Cash is also now injured, so this makes this move even more imperative. And I think the player they should sign is Luciano Gertruder. He's a right-back from Feyenoord, but what makes him such a useful signing is his flexibility. He can play right-back, centre-back, be an inverted full-back, an overlapping full-back, can create chances, can score goals, is good at defending. He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Age 24, he is quite young as well. And, Emery likes players who are versatile. I think Gertruder would thrive under Unai Emery. He might cost a decent amount, probably around 25 to 30 million, which is a bit steep, but it would be a worthwhile investment from Aston Villa. Man United. Man United is actually a difficult one as they've bought players all over the pitch, and while they can upgrade some players, for example, out wide, it's really reliant on them selling players like Rashford and Antony to upgrade out wide, so at this stage it seems unlikely that's going to happen. So one area I think they still need another body in is midfield. I know Agade looks like he's coming in, but they've lost Amrabat. McTominay is likely leaving. Eriksen could leave as well. So that means in terms of those two deeper roles, we only really have Mainu, Agade and Casemiro. Besides Mainu, they also have nobody who can sort of progress the ball up the pitch. Casemiro and Agade aren't great on the ball, are more so defending midfielders. So I'm looking for a cheap midfielder who can be a different option in that midfield, and that is Adrien Rabiot. He's still a free agent right now, so won't cost a penny, and importantly last summer was actually wanted by United and Den Haag. However, the deal collapsed at the last second due to his contract demands. Now granted, that will probably still be an issue again. However, as the deadline approaches and he still hasn't got a club, I'm sure he will probably start to drop his demands. If they can get Rabiot on a decent wage with a not too long contract, I think that's a sensible move to add a player who's a bit of a goal threat in midfield, got lots of experience, a decent dribbler. It'll be a nice one. But this is one where you only do it if you get a good deal in terms of wages and contract length. If he's demanding like 200k a week on like a 4-year contract, yeah, forget it. But as I said, if I'm Rabiot, I'm probably starting to drop those demands as clubs seem uninterested, and I think for free would be a pretty good addition for United. Bournemouth. So Bournemouth have done some good business and don't really need too many additions. One area they could potentially do an upgrade though is midfield. Well, not necessarily an upgrade, just another body in there, as Tyler Adams is always injured, meaning it's really just Ryan Christie and Lewis Cook available in those two deeper roles. Bournemouth have also been using a sort of young approach where they sign younger players with the hope of developing them this summer. Somebody who maybe isn't too young, he's 25, but could become a great player, is Vinicius Sosa from Sheffield United. He was one of the only bright spots from last season for Sheffield and was so good defensively, averaging a whopping 4 tackles per game, almost on the level of João Palhinha. Ironically, Fulham were interested in signing him to replace Palhinha last season. And while he has continued to play for Sheffield United in the Championship, I'm sure he would like to leave and go back to the Premier League. Bournemouth could probably snatch him up, and at the age of 25 he can still develop into a quality player for them. So I think he would be a handy depth option, a different type of midfielder to what they have, and a solid pickup. Leicester City. Leicester needs some reinforcements in attack. They've got Jordan Ayew in, which is okay I guess, but in general the attack is a little bit uninspiring. Particularly striker is a bit of a problem as Daka is inconsistent and Vardy, well, he's a legend but is 37, and it's a big ask if you want him to score double digits this season. Equally, it does it's going to have to be a cheap player who can play number 9. Somebody who, if they bang, could be the guy to keep them up. And that's a player I have. But equally, this player can very easily be one of the biggest wastes of money. That player is Anthony Martial. He is, of course, a free agent after leaving United this summer and is yet to find a club. We all know of his abilities and what he is capable of when fit, but of course his fitness is the big issue. However, I'm thinking you can try get him on a similar deal to a Lingard at Forest, where he was a free agent signed on a 1-year deal on a decent wage with an option to extend. Now, ideally you don't give him a fat wage, but on a 1-year with an option to extend deal, I think that would be great for Leicester because, as I said, if you can get him fit, you have a player who will be a weapon for you and potentially keep you up. So, Martial to Leicester, let's get this done. I would love to see Martial back in the Prem and firing again. Arsenal don't need much, but it's really the same place we all been banging on about, which could do with another player now more than ever, I think. Striker. Eddie Nketiah is gone, meaning they only have 2 strikers available now in Havertz and Jesus. Jesus, as we know, has many injury issues. I mean, he's injured right now, so that means really it's only Havertz up front. So getting another body in there is priority, and a player who they've been linked to for God knows how long, you're probably bored of hearing about, but right now, in this right moment, just is the perfect timing. It's Ivan Toney. He wants out at Brentford, and they're more than willing to let him go. The clock is ticking, and no club has come in for him besides Saudi. His price is low. I think now you could probably get him for around 25 to 30 million, and for a player of his quality, that is a bargain. You might even be able to sort out a David Raya type deal where he extends his deal and you get a loan with a buy clause. But either way, this is probably the cheapest price you'll get for Toney, and it would be a low risk at that price in my opinion. Arsenal need to get this done. Next up we have Crystal Palace. Palace need quite a bit of work in the last few days of the window as they've lost some key players and are yet to replace them, so I do expect them to be busy. One of the biggest areas of need is centre-back after Joachim Andersen left for Fulham. They desperately need another. Now they've been linked to Maxime Lacroix from Wolfsburg, which would be good, but somebody who I think is more available, a little bit cheaper, and I think just as good, is Jakob Kivior from Arsenal. Kivior played an important role for Arsenal last season, helping them in the league and Europe. He was also an ever-present for Poland at the Euros, but now with Galatasaray signing, Timber returning from injury, Arteta doesn't seem to have much use for Kivior. Aside from Premier League experience and versatility, Kivior is 24, which is an attractive age, and has developed under that Arteta system. When he's played, he's actually been pretty good for Arsenal, so I think Palace should purchase him, as he's also a left-sided centre-back, meaning he can go left centre-back and Gay can move into his more favoured right side. This move makes total sense, wouldn't cost too much and has lots of upside, so Kivior to Palace is just perfect. Nottingham Forest. Forest actually have a really nice squad with not too many players needed. Another right back would be ideal, but I'm going to go for a bit more of a fun option. Their wingers are great with Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, so direct and skillful, causing trouble for defenders. However, they don't really have any other wingers like them at the club. For that reason, I picked another direct, tricky winger as a backup to those boys, and it's Maxwell Cornet. The forward was signed for 17 million from Burnley in 2022, but has really struggled at West Ham. He only played 7 games in the Premier League last season, and overall has played less than 1,000 minutes since arriving 2 years ago. Despite this, when at Burnley he was terrific, with 9 goals for his side, showing he definitely has the ability to be a Premier League player. He's not really been given a serious run of games at West Ham and Forest, have resurrected careers of Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, so maybe they can do the same for Cornet, who looks to be available on a loan or a cheap fee this summer. Right, and finally we have Everton. Now, Everton is a hard one as they don't really have any money to spend due to the rumours over their ownership, so really I need to suggest a player available on a free or a loan. In terms of areas of need, right back and striker is needed, but I'm going to go for striker because there's a player on loan which is available who I think would be a good addition, and that's David Datro Fofana from Chelsea. He was on loan at Burnley for the second half of last season and was actually really good. He got 4 goals and 1 assist in 15 games for a struggling Burnley side, showing he is more than capable of scoring goals in the Premier League. He's very much available and you can get him on a loan with an option to buy, which I think is a decent deal for a player who has lots of potential, still very young, and I think actually would suit Sean Dyche's system very well. So David Datro Fofana to Everton is the move. Right then, those are all the suggestions. Now here are some other players I didn't suggest, but I did consider and I think you should be looking out for in terms of they need a move in the last few days, and I'm intrigued to see where they go to in these final days. So we have Kieran Trippier, Federico Chiesa, Joe Gomez, Aaron Ramsdale, Reece Nelson, Eric Garcia, Tammy Abraham, Memphis Depay, Mario Hermoso, Arthur Melo, Sofian Amlabat, Neil Mopay, Giovanni Lo Celso, Kepa, Victor Lindelof, Sergio Reguilon, Ademola Lookman, Kingsley Coman, Ansu Fati, Diego Carlos and Matt Turner. So those are some other names to look out for in the coming days in the window. But yeah, those are some last minute buys